Hello. You probably don't have any idea who I am because I make a video once every 5 years at this rate. My name is Dylan. I play bass in a progressive metalcore band called Above Below, as well as screwing around in a few other little side projects. And today I'm kind of just following up where I left things off on this channel last, which was a kind of overcomplicated bass pedal board that I put together around about 2021, if I remember correctly. And that video got a lot more interest than I thought it would, which makes me kind of sad to say that I didn't really use it for very long at all. Kind of like most people around that time, I was swept up in the mania of the, let me just grab it right here. This guy, the quad Cortex. And yeah, I sold off all those pedals and tried to move to just using this guy in a wireless unit, which I managed to do for a few shows. We haven't played a lot in that sort of time that's passed, but I did manage to take it around the country a little bit and get a bunch of experiences in with it and figure out what I like and what I don't like about it. And I'll quickly just kind of cover that now before I move on to why we're actually here today. So what I like about the Quad Cortex is that it's clearly a very versatile unit. It's, it is good. There is no doubt about that. For people who are multi-instrumentalists, especially, the way it can kind of do a little bit of everything, the way it can, run multiple signal flows at once, do a vocal chain as well as a guitar effects chain, that sort of thing. For a lot of people, that's going to be really cool. That's going to be too hard to pass up, and that's going to make it worth the money for them. What I don't really love about it, there's a couple of things that come to mind. The first thing is not super Quad Cortex specific. It's a little bit kind of any multi-effect unit. It certainly would be the case for the Kemper I used to own. There was a particular show we played a few years back where the power outlet was super dodgy, and the thing lost power about 3 times in the course of a set. And if you've ever used one of these, it takes the best part of a minute to reboot. So if you triple that and you have to stand there in front of people waiting for this thing to reboot while nothing happens, it is pretty sad. It's definitely a mark against using this kind of thing, if that matters to you. Not entirely deterrent to me. But the other thing that's kind of crept up on me over the years, and it's, people make a whole thing about this. I'm not out to make a video that really litigates this, but the way the Quad Cortex has rolled out since it first debuted has been a little bit sussy in terms of the way they made certain promises about their existing software being compatible with it. Again, if you've been on the internet for more than a minute, you'll know all about this already. But the reason why it feels particularly relevant to bring up in this video is because I'm looking at it in the context of bass, and they recently announced that the Darkglass suite plugin, which is a classic, pretty much everyone's got it, will never be coming to the QC. And it's not a huge deal in reality because you can kind of get those sounds via captures and all sorts of stuff. It's not, in reality, it's not a big deal, but it feels like a little bit of a sad footnote to this long journey of waiting to see if this thing is going to do everything you thought it would when you first bought it. So for that reason, I'm a little bit sour on it, and I don't think that it was ever completely necessary for what I use it for anyway. I'm going to keep it. I think that it's a valuable tool to have around no matter what, but this kind of brings me to the real subject of this video. For the last year or so, I've been noticing a lot of chatter about a kind of competitor product that is actually made by the company who used to sort of own Neural DSP, and that is Darkglass. And they are kind of the cornerstone of pretty much most bass tones that exist in the world that I play in. And they have had this pedal called the Anagram for a little while now. And it is a cute kind of touchscreen, multi-effect units in a similar kind of vein to the Quad Cortex or the Quad Cortex Mini. Now, I expect it's going to be pretty bass-centric, which suits my purposes, but it might mean that it's not as valuable or useful to other people who are maybe more guitar-focused. But that said, I think they did make special efforts to include things like the Neural Amp modeler platform compatibility so that theoretically, there's no reason why you can't run very nice sounding guitar rigs on this. But for our purposes, we're going to ignore that, and we're going to talk about bass stuff specifically. Now, why I think this is a really interesting concept is that it's actually quite a bit cheaper than the Quad Cortex or the Quad Cortex Mini. I'm not going to quote figures just because depending on what country you're watching from, they're not going to make sense. But at least in our country, it's a decent amount cheaper than the Quad Cortex, and it's cheaper enough than the Mini. So if you're a bass player, you're already kind of nervous about spending the kind of money that these things cost. I know a lot of bass players are not heavy into spending heaps of money on gear like guitar players are. This might actually do the trick for you. It also comes with this sort of semi-hard case, which is pretty cool because Neural do a similar thing that they charge you quite a lot of money for. So that's another bonus in the comparison. Part of why I've been kind of interested in this lately is I noticed their software development has been kind of surging, like quite regular updates with new devices. They just opened up a marketplace where third-party plugin manufacturers can actually make stuff for their platform, and quite a few have. Again, something that would be cool to see on the Neural platform, but hasn't happened as yet. So I think that it's a kind of refreshing change of pace in seeing how much it's supported and how much it's grown already in the shorter amount of time it's been around. So what I'm going to do today is basically just approach it with a completely fresh set of eyes. I've never plugged one in. I'm just going to go in raw and try to create the basic couple of sort of tones that I would usually use. I'm a bit of a barbarian with this stuff. Given that I'm not super technically savvy and interested in like learning the absolute ins and outs of this kind of thing, if you see me manage to set it up with relative ease and get going with it, hopefully that will tell you what you need to know in terms of whether you'll be able to do it as well. So without further ado, I'm just going to get stuck into it. All right, here we go. We're going to get this thing plugged in and see what it sounds like and what it does. The first thing I want to check out, obviously, if you watch the last part of the video, is how quickly this thing boots up. So I'm just going to get the power cable that comes with it. Welcome to Anagram. Okay, that was pretty quick. We're not there yet, but it comes up with a tutorial. So I don't know if it's going to show that whole thing again. I assume it won't, but let's just say, for the sake of testing, I'm just going to pull the power out now. And let's just see how quickly it takes to boot up again. Pop. Wow, okay. So already that is considerably better than what I'm used to there. I can't help but give him points for that. So now we're just going to get stuck straight in with this lovely bass guitar I have here that you might have seen in a video I made about 5 years ago. It is an ESP Custom Shop 5-string, which has suspiciously Dingwall-like specs, but the best finish you've ever seen in your life. It is tuned to E0, and then basically the rest is like drop A on the next 4 strings. Bit weird, I know, but anyway, that's my life. So we should be hearing things now. Okay, we're getting kind of weak signal out of it. So here's the first test. I got to figure out where the overall output volume of this guy is. There's a master that says master there. I assume, no, that's affecting it says master hold. There you go. So if you read things, you'll be surprised how easy everything is. So let's crank that up. Okay, so the master's up to 0 dB now. You can hear what I'm doing. I'm getting a decent level in Cubase. So the next thing I want to try is the tuner, which is something that I often run into issues with on such a low tuning. That low E is very rarely detected by even quite renowned tuners. The only one that has been reliable that I've ever tested is the Peterson Strobo Stomp, which is why I still have one, even though you would think that the first thing you can get rid of is a tuner pedal when you're running something as complicated as one of these. The Quad Cortex certainly didn't do a very good job with it, so I'm just going to hold that button there. You got a tuner, and I'll just hit the low E. Okay, it picks it up. But I'm a little bit, actually I'll just take the mute off so I can. it's not really responding to it, which is a shame. So if I go to the A straight away, yep, normal people tunings are fine. If you're stupid enough to play in this tuning, not so much. So I'll just have to quickly switch over to my Peterson and tune up. Okay, so it looks like it basically just opens up on a clean harmonic booster based tone, which is their like kind of one of their cleaner gain little overdrive pedals. Sounds cool. So what I really want to do is just try and get to a blank screen and just start building from scratch. You know, anyone can go through these presets. I can see straight away there's, you know, Microtubes X, Alpha, Omega stuff, things that I'm used to that'll probably be perfectly fine starting points, but it's not the best way to evaluate how, you know, actually using the unit goes. Okay, so there's a little button up here. It says factory, I'm assuming, yep. So that goes to user. There's a blank one. Okay, that's easy enough. So what I would normally start with is something like a noise gate. This bass tends to have a bit of a noise floor, especially if you start adding a whole bunch of gain. So it looks like there's a utilities section. What have we got here? Okay, that's maybe not what I'm after. It's kind of very picture-based, this one. You know, the neural stuff is a little bit more simplistic in its symbolism, but this actually like kind of goes down the line 6 or the Fender Tone Master route, where it's actually got sort of graphic depictions of what you're looking for, and that might actually be more useful to some people, maybe less useful to others if you don't know what the original device is. Maybe it's in EQs, filters, and dynamics. No. Okay. So definitely not, wasn't here. Split output, what's this guy? Neural loader. Oh, so that's for the neural amp capture things, which I won't go into. I think the neural amp modeler things, I should say. I'm not gonna go into that too much. All right, well, sort of, I guess the first test of figuring out how to run a gate is not doing so well. I'm kind of probably missing something really simple here. All right, so I failed on trying to find a gate just to start off with. It's not necessarily a great sign, but I have a feeling I'm probably missing something simple here. We can come back to that. So the cornerstone of my main tone has been Microtubes X kind of ideas, or parallax ideas if you go with the neural plugin version. I like that whole separation of distortion and compression based on the frequency ranges. I think that's fairly helpful with playing in silly bass tunings. So the benefit of going with the Darkglass product is that they have their built-in, you know, they kind of came up with the stuff, or at least they were the first to make it popular as far as I could see. So if I go here and I go distortion, whoa, we've got animated stuff. That's pretty fancy looking. Shit, I'm interested. All right, that's already, I'm hearing some noise. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, bang on the money. So they have a Microtubes X one, but I guess this is maybe a more complicated version of that. Cool. All right, well, that's kind of getting somewhere already. Wow, this is, yeah, really space aged in terms of the graphics of it all. It's so it's a lot more colorful to look at than what I'm used to. So you can actually change the drive type based on their classic formulas for each of these frequency bands. That's pretty high tech. Maybe a little bit too complicated for me, but I could see myself exploring this. Cool. So you can, yeah. So it's labeled what the actual knobs above are going to do. It's pretty self-explanatory. So in this case, I'd probably take the mids down a little bit. So yeah, you can change the compression there, the drive there. So let's just see, just for the fun of it, let's just, okay, so if you want to get rid of a block, you just hit that guy up there. Let's try the X instead. So this is going to be, all right, so not quite as fancy looking. So there's obviously a little bit of a variance with different blocks in terms of how much, how crazy they've gone with designing it. Usually want to crank that up a little bit. that up a little bit. Okay. That's also a pretty viable way to get where I want to go pretty quickly. But it would be cool to see what else we can do here. So we've got amps. Right. So I don't actually recognize a lot of these. A lot of these look kind of suspiciously like guitar amps. I know that's a Noble right there. But this kind of looks like a Marshall type thing. I don't really know. Interesting, okay. Not really sure what to think of that. What about cabs? So, oh yeah, cool. Oh wow, there's heaps of stuff. All right. Okay, and cabs. Perfect. Oh, Mark, so that's like a Mark-based cab. Well, I mean, as you can see here, there's, it's going to be like any digital pedal. There's endless ways you can play with this. I'm not really going to get too tied up in sculpting an exact tone, but that's pretty promising. And then, I mean, I don't know when I'd ever use most of this stuff on bass, but it's looking kind of more and more like this could be a very viable guitar pedal as well as bass. So, I would watch this space as far as that goes. On the EQ section, we've got some simple and some complicated, so that's kind of cool. So high pass filter, which again, oh wow, cool. Look at that. Wow, oh shit, okay. Very, very, like, for such a thin screen, it doesn't look like you'd be able to do much with your fingers on here, but it's actually quite easy. So that's a pleasant surprise. I'm used to the neural thing with these being the adjustable part rather than actual knobs, so that's caught me up a couple of times. Whoa, let's have a look at this thing. Oh wow, okay. Oh, look at that. Wow. Just delightful watching this thing at work. There's a lot more immediate feedback than I'm used to in a neural screen. So just being able to see that whole waveform pop up, and it's kind of like looking at a fab filter plugin on a guitar pedal that's like this big. It's pretty cool. All right, so we've established that it takes about 2 seconds to get a nice dirty tone. Could be interesting to just set up, just see what there is in the way of clean stuff. Like say if we try the Noble here, which is something that has always seemed really interesting to me. So is there any way I can easily just try that? Oh yeah, so there's a bypass switch here, so. So it's pretty easy to just quickly A/B stuff. Let's try the classic. Let's try the Microtubes B3K. Cool. Run switch off again. So I've got to try and get a little bit weird with this thing at least. Let's go into the modulation and pitch section. A lot of nice colors staring back at me. Actually, let's see the pitch shifter. That's kind of that can be pretty hit or miss. So this should be just. Okay, so let's just let's go right up. Cool, all right. Just add some dry in as well. Let's go the other way. Oh, I keep watching that, man. I'm so used to these other... Ugh. All right, that's shaking my speakers a little bit. I like it. I guess the obvious question is what happens when you play E0 with that on. It's so stupid, I barely hear anything. So that answers that question. Yeah. So that's an octaver, flanger. Let's see the chorus. Oh, mono or stereo. Okay, so it's got the capability to get freaky with it. Maybe let's add the blend into, let's go up to 100. All right, that's a little bit carried away. I don't want to make this video an hour long, so I feel like I kind of have to leave it somewhere. My impression of this is that it is very, very usable. The screen is lovely, as I keep saying. It seems like it's already packed with stuff, but there is a whole extra world to explore in terms of additional third-party plugins that are now coming out from brands like Nembrini. I keep seeing, videos from guys who are actually good at playing bass all over my Instagram feed every other day. So there's a whole world of stuff out there. But hey, for what it's worth, I think this is pretty cool. There is plenty of content out there with really, really great players doing crazy things with this, which is why it caught my eye in the first place. If you need a starting recommendation, I would look up Mr. Stephen Lane, a friend of mine who is big time into this and really good at demonstrating it. And who knows, maybe you'll see this on a board if we get out and about later in the year. I don't know yet. I'm looking forward to spending more time with it and, working out the little things that I couldn't work out in this short video. Thank you very much. Hopefully it won't be another 5 years before you see me again. Thank you for watching.